פרשיות אחרי מות-קדושים this week filled with mitzvot. I would like to zoom in and focus on the second part on kdoshim, which some years we read it independently, and the key I would like to zoom in is the mitzvot ben adam lachavero, the commandments that apply in the relationship between man and his fellow. Some of them are chapter 19, pasuk, sentence 17, לא תשנא את אחיך בלבביך, you shall not hate your brother in your heart. You can agree to disagree, but you are prohibited from hating. You shall reprove your fellow and do not bear a sin because of him. So this is an ethical commandment in relationship between man and his fellow. And then the Torah go in the positive way, and they said, you shall not take revenge. 1, 2. You shall not bear a grudge against the member of your people. 3. ואהבת לרעך כמוך אני השם. You shall love your fellow as yourself. I am the Lord. So the beginning, it's called in Hebrew isur lav. It's a negative commandment. You shall not hate your fellow. The end, it's mitzvat aseh. It's a positive commandment to love your fellow. It's called in Hebrew le'ehov et chavero. To love your fellow.
I think the interesting thing there is about bearing a grudge, because that's a sort of a passive, it's not an active.
Excellent.
You know,
we will discuss the differences between something in your heart, something that you take in action, the different level, later.
Okay.
It's a good point. But first, I want to zoom in and clarify this mitzvah, because it's involved in the whole parsha, directly or indirectly, man and his fellow. It means that even those points, maybe you please bring more chumashim because more people are coming in. So even those words between the love and the aseh, between the negative part and the positive, right? The Torah used the word hocheach tochiach et amitecha. You should rebuke your fellow, and then the Torah used the word velo tisa alav chet. That's very mind-boggling line. They said here, you should reprove your fellow, which means you should say some hello. You should say some word of admonition. We just begin, and you should not bear a sin because of him. So let's go. There's several step by step to understand this. So what we're saying so far, just for you walking, that we have this week's 2 Torah portion. It mainly focuses, the second one, kdoshim, the relationship between man and his fellow. There are tons of mitzvot, and we try to zoom in to really get to the deepest meaning according to different commentators and different Talmudic texts. What is the 293? What is the meaning of particularly the sentences 18 and 19? Again, 1, you shall not hate. You should not hate your brother in your heart. You should not hate your brother in your heart. And please don't tell me that that's not a 2012 mitzvah that apply to people's life, because it is something that people should take seriously. Point 1. This is Torah, it's not rabbinic, okay? The word in the text. 2. You shall reprove your fellow, meaning you should tell that person something that know exactly what's going on. How should I say? That's another question. 3. And do not bear a sin because of him. Bear a sin meaning I'm bearing sin, he is bearing sin, we are bearing sin. What exactly the Torah meant when the Torah said I should rebuke him or reprove him and tell him or her something, and I'm not bear a sin, which means if I don't tell, I carry a sin, or if I don't tell, they carry the sin, or we both carry the sin, we don't know yet. Then the next pasuk go via negativa. This one it's called love. which is like a negative. Now we go positive, and you said, 1, you shall not take revenge. 2, you should not bear a grudge against a member of your people. 3, you should love your fellow as yourself. I am Hashem. So you see, there's a lot of things between love and hate, between a person and his fellow, that we need to understand. We start with the point of departure of Rashbam, which is one of the well-known commentators, and he hold, and I quote this word of Rashbam. It's in my best recollection, is 13th century Spanish rabbi. He said, "Im gmalcha ra'a," if someone did something wrong to you, that you are very unhappy about it, okay? לא תתראה עליו לפניו כאוהב. You shall not pretend to be his friend while in your heart you're furious. ובקרבו ישים אורבו לא טוב. And his heart, you feel that it's wrong. It shouldn't be like that. אלא הוכח תוכיחהו על מה שעשה. You should come across and you should tell him what he did wrong, ומתוך כך יהיה שלום, and as a result, it will be shalom, it will be a peace. ולא תישא עליו חטא בלבבך. He interpreted that you shall not carry sin upon him in your heart, which is his sin by doing the act that it wasn't right, but since you carry it in your heart, the Torah opposed this type of behavior. That's the Rashbam's opinion. Personal example, yes.
Could I just...
Yes.
Are you on camera?
I'm on camera, but you can talk. Nobody sees you. Just hear your voice,
Okay.
so it's fine.
Do you think all this boils down to the fact that if you feel that someone's done something wrong and you have a grudge, if you don't air it, or if you do air it, maybe you can resolve it, maybe
Correct.
see each other and avoid all this
Correct.
hate.
Correct. Excellent. And what I try to share with you at this moment is a small example, personal example. For sure, I'm not going to mention names. On July 07, as you all know, I went to a series of surgeries in my left leg. It was a jet ski accident. So it was about 9 weeks, the first period before the second surgery, etc., that I was in a wheelchair, I was in a bed, I was in a heavy medication, etc. So at that time, I was in Baltimore. And it's hard to tell this story, but it's a very painful story. One of the Rabbonim, one of the very important rabbis, very well-known leader, he came to visit me. And, you know, I'm a little bit stubborn, so I'm against medication. And you know all my stories. I can be 2-3 days like I used to be in the army with no medications, and everybody think that I'm a sugar. So anyway, he came and he said, you should take medication, and he talked to me, and what can I do for you? So I said to him, Rabbi, you really want to do something nice for me? He said, you need money? I said, no. You need medication? No. So I said, what do you need? I said, can you come once a week and study Torah with me? That's the only thing I ask him. He said, are you kidding? I'm going to come here every day and study with you Daf Yomi. Page a day in the Talmud. That's what he said. I was the happiest person at that moment because this is something that I like a lot to do. Guess what? He never showed up.
Oh.
Never. He never sent a card, phone call, anything. Well, I used to go to that rabbi every year before Passover, since, you know, before Pesach I'm very busy. So people selling the chametz, and you take the whole forms, you bring it to the Bet Din in Baltimore. So for many years I used that rabbi, who is a leading name, take all the forms and bring them to the Bet Din on my behalf, on the community's behalf. That year, following year, I didn't went to him, I went directly to the Bet Din, etc. So he called me up And he goes, is everything okay? I didn't see you before Yom Tov, etc. And here I was exactly with this predicament, this dilemma. It's the eve of Passover. Should I tell him what I feel? Or should I keep my mouth shut? So I don't know if I did the right thing or the wrong thing, but I didn't tell him. And then time passed until I revisit this text and these commentators. And I didn't share this with anyone, so no one knows anything that happened, until one day in my past I decided that, following the teaching we're just learning now, that I should write a letter. And I wrote him a letter, personal letter, in the language that only he and I fully understand, in a very, encrypted rabbinic way, in a special language that only he and I understand, and I expressed my feelings. And he was very apologetic, and he in a way felt bad and repents. But the point is, for all that period of time, I didn't want to get to revenge or to do anything to him, but
You were hurt.
I was hurt, and I kept distance away, because if he did not promise me, if he will say to me, I'll try, or if he just said the way that I asked him to come and study once a week, that was fine. But he made
A commitment.
not just a commitment, but a very strong vow. And he said it clearly. He said, I'm going to come here every day and study with you. And I said to him at that time, you don't need to come every day. He said, no, I make my business to come here every day and study with you. So as much as I try to analyze that situation and try to figure out, to judge him favorably, he's busy, he has his own life, but I have a hard time to go to fully comprehend this type of measure of commitments. It was hard for me to... Why I'm sharing that? Because that's exactly what the Rashbam said. He said, you have the obligation to tell him. Now the big question we need to ask is, how should I go about, how a person should go about and do that? So the Torah said, and that's what the Rashbam swore, he said, Lo takum ligmol hora'at tachat ra. You should never go and pay him back the same way like in the movies. Eye for eye, you pay him back like El Capone. That's not the way of Torah. Furthermore, velo titor afilu bilvavcha. You shall not carry an anger even in your heart. Ela avor al midatcha. You should go above this level. You should raise up. You take the high road, right? That's the way you say it in English. And take the high road and go above that. If we try so far to abbreviate all these commandments, is the idea that a person, one of our missions in life, is to uprooted hatred from our hearts, which is very difficult, very difficult.
But if you hold a grudge against someone, it eats at you. It's
Correct.
not just the other person.
Correct.
It's eating at you, so you have to kind of
Correct.
rid yourself of that feeling.
Yes, but there is difference between level that you speak and there are other levels when you feel that something very wrong happened to you. It's a friend of mine. He was pursuing PhD. It's another example, and in that university, everyone about 7 to 10 years take average person to get the PhD. He was very talented, and he was in about 2 or 3 years. He was about to finish. And one of the professors felt that he does that in order to take his job. So he tried to fight him tooth to nail, and he delayed his PhD for a year or whatever it is, just, for no reason but small mind. And that fellow carried a very heavy feeling toward that. Because in a way it was a stumbling block for his great success, and on the top of that it makes him a very he lost his confidence on himself after this type of behavior from a teacher. Just a small example, that life examples of people. So here we're talking about akirat sin'a me'alev, to uprooted hatred from our heart, which is very difficult. Very difficult. So here we need to understand what does that mean when the Torah uses the word tochacha, you should reprove your fellow. You should rebuke your fellow. Is that going to be effective sometimes? Is sometimes you're going to change him or her? Is something going to change the situation? Nachmanides, Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, the great Sephardic rabbi of the 13th century, he tried to say, unlike Rashbam, he tried to say that it's a separate things, that it's separate idea. That the person should rebuke his fellow if he sees something very wrong that that person does, but not that I'm responsible for his sin, yet I have the obligation to tell him that what he's doing is wrong. It's a very fine distinction in that sense. He supported himself on the Chumash. You see the Targum Onkelos, one of the translation of the Chumash to Aramaic. He said, "Ve'la tekabel al dileh hova," which means, according to Onkelos, which is the Torah translator to Aramaic, he held a very different way. He said that you will not receive a punishment. It's like in Hebrew saying, "Shelo titchayev ata onesh biglal avono," that you will not carry a punishment because of his sins. So, in other words, in one hand, Ramban hold all these components together in a sense. You see in this example in the Torah tells us about Abraham and Avimelech. Abraham saw in Avimelech, in the book of Bereshit, Genesis, all kind of improper behavior with the wells, with the flocks, with many things that wasn't right. So the Torah said, "Ve'ochiach Abraham et Abraham came and he let him have it. He told him what he feels, which means he told him straight to his face what he feels, and he didn't carry those bad feelings in his heart. And for sure, it create if you made it right the way that Abraham did, that person come back, feel regrets, feel bad, confess, and promise never to do it again, etc. But here, if you look at the pasuk, it's not only we are forbidden from hating our fellow. The Torah said that you also obligated not to remember what your fellow did to you in the past that was wrong. Right? That's the language. And they said, it's like you need to expunge, you need to erase from your heart the iniquity, the sin that the person did, totally. And not just that, the Torah continue by saying, the end of the sentence, you shall love. You shall love your fellow, and not just that, as yourself. And ending, I am Hashem. So Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, you know, I love Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. I wrote a book about him. I love this great Sephardic rabbi of the 13th century. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, Ramban, he has a problem with all of that concept. And he said, I tried to paraphrase his word. He said, what is that idea that the Torah asks us to love someone the same as you love yourself? You're asking people to do something that looks impossible. There's a very famous Talmudic text we studied it many years ago. I don't know if you remember, but some of you may. It's a Gemara in Bava Metzia. The Talmud said in Tractate Bava Metzia about, it's a hypothetical scenario, but it's very crucial to understand the Torah mindset. The Talmud said, if two people walking in a desert carry a jar of water, let's call these two people, one his name is Reuven and one is named Shimon. Reuven drank the water, is nothing left in his jar. Shimon have some water in his jar. They are both about to faint. They are both very thirsty. They stuck in a desert. So the Talmud asks a question, what shall do? Should Shimon share? Reuven now is about to collapse. Should Shimon share his water with Reuven or not? So Ben Petura, one of the Rabbanim in the Talmud, said, let them share the water, and one shall not see the death of his fellow. And that was the original opinion. Until Rabbi Akiva came, the Talmud said, and he said, no. It's a very famous statement. He said, V'chei achicha imach, you shall live with your fellow. Your life, chayecha kodmim lechaye chavercha. Your life take precedence more than your fellow. Meaning, you don't know how to swim. Very little. And you see, if you're on a pool or you're in the ocean with your boat, Dave, right? And you see someone sinking, right?
Sinking.
Sinking, thank you. Now you know if you jump to the water, both of you may die. You're not a big swimmer. So according to Rabbi Akiva, you do not have the obligation. Because your life take precedence because your other lives. What happened here? Your life, in that sense, it's safe. You risk your life if you save someone else. So Rabbi Akiva holds that you don't have the obligation. Why it's serious? Anybody have an idea how serious is this question? How far we can go with this question? Any idea?
Well, you can't save someone if you can't swim. There's no point jumping in the water in any
Correct.
case. It's impossible.
Excellent. But what happened if you're on a pool and you see Mr. Johnny who walk on the pool or walk on the ocean, and Johnny he is a lifeguard.
Yeah.
So you said, hey Johnny, somebody's there, look like he's drowning, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, lady, mister, I'm off duty. Leave me out.
Oh, I don't believe you'd do that.
Right? You said to him, you crazy, I want you to jump. I'm off duty. Well, I give you $500. Can you jump to the water? Oh, $500? Okay. He jumped to the water and he saved that person. So the question is the Jewish law required you to do that? To save someone else? I give you a much serious example, much deeper question. Organ donations. What happened in organ donation? I'm not intent today to deal with organ donation per se, but just to give you the idea, the vignette of that. You have two people. Mr. A wants to give to Mr. B part of his body. Mr. B is in a life-threatening situation. Mr. A is a healthy person. Mr. A wants to give to Mr. B. The problem is that it may reduce the value of the life of Mr. A, and it's also always a small percentage of risk that he may lose his life, but in every surgery. But what it's clear that the quality of life or reduction of the quality of life of Mr. A as a result of this organ donation may occur. So if you follow Ben Petura, you remember that guy, Ben Petura, this rabbi who said that let them share both the water? So it clears that you have the opportunity to give an organ donation, do it, 1, 2, 3. If you follow Rabbi Akiva, it's not simple to say yes or no. It's complicated. You may say, for example, it's much easier if Mr. A is a healthy person, Mr. B is in an immediate urgent need, and the transformation, according to the expert, is a very low risk to Mr. A life, etc., etc. And Mr. B will really be saved. However, if Mr. A wants to donate and freeze that organ for some potential need of someone, it's a problem. So you see where's the source. The whole idea of your life take precedence before your fellow, is that part of that question? Yes, I see you want to ask me something.
You wouldn't think about it twice if you're donating an organ, say, for someone you love, your children, your grandchildren, if they need it, you wouldn't.
Yeah, but
at least I wouldn't anyhow.
I'm not asking in that sense of immediate family and emotional attachment. My rhetorical question or this discussion, it's in a general idea of when it's come to love thy neighbor as thyself and love your fellow, in what limitations we consider that love. Because we start with the point of departure that I need to rebuke someone, I need to tell someone what I feel, etc., etc. So we ask.
Now the question is, that
Yes.
did Rabbi Akiva say that you're not obligated to share your water with him, or you must not share your water with him?
Excellent. Rabbi Akiva said, "Chayecha kodmim lechaye chavercha." Your life take precedence before your fellow's life. That's what he meant.
So that means you cannot.
It's a question because every case it's different. I gave you a small example with the money. Okay, every case is different. In our case, what we understand according to this Ramban, that the meaning of the Torah, that a person should take away from his heart, try to erase, to expunge, to eradicate from his heart midat hakin'ah, the feeling of jealousy in regard to his fellow, which means that he should wish his fellow abundance or whatever he wished for himself.
Right.
In other words, for example, if you have Lamborghini, right? So you wish somebody else also to have whatever, BMW, Mercedes, Lamborghini, whatever it is. And vice versa. If you see someone who has the nicest husband or wife or professions or wisdom or whatever world traits someone else, everyone has their own gift and you never know what's happening in their lives, but basically you wish the best to someone else. You should be happy when someone else have abundance. It shouldn't bother you. Okay, you should eradicate this feeling of needs of all the things, quote unquote things, that society has so much, the advertisement is so heavy. And the proof to that, Ramban said, he said in the word of the Torah, because the Torah did not say the word ve'ahavta et re'acha kamocha, which means you should love the fellow as you love yourself. The Torah used the word you should love you fellow as yourself. What does that mean? What's the difference? You should be happy when you see someone else in his or her success, and you should not be envy of his goodness. The same way that you are not envy on yourself for your own success, because every person has some point of success and some point of failure, but you're not jealous of yourself for your success. Or even the Talmud said, two things a person never been jealous: success of his son, success of his students. That's the famous statement in the Talmud. B'shnei dvarim en adam mitkaneh. Two things a person not be jealous. When you see your son successful or more than you,
Credit to you.
I'm more than happy. When I see students know not just what I know, triple than I know. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, they said when Yeshua, when they come and said, Eldad, Meidad, the other people were prophets, Moshe said, no, I wish that everyone will be like me and more than me. So these two things, a person should be happy. But people with a small mind, with a small thinking, sometimes they jealous. Sometimes they express it. Sometimes it's just in the heart.
I think it's human nature that even if you wish success on someone else, it's just not quite as much success as I have, though.
So that's what the Torah asks.
Be successful, but not quite as successful.
It's a good example. I give you an example. It's a very good point, Dave. Take the famous example, the Haftorah we just read, Macha Chodesh, last week. The story of Jonathan and David. Everyone knows that story, right? So what happened? Yehonatan was the son of King Saul. Typically, especially in those days, he inherited the kingdom. And this is his friend or somebody else, different age, someone else, whom Samuel said that he will be the king and everything. But meanwhile his father is failure, and in a regular mindset, I'm entitled to be the king. But Yehonatan reached a level of righteousness that he eradicates the jealousy from his heart. In such a level, he said to King David, Ki ata timloch al Israel. You're going to be the king of Israel. Two reasons. You have better qualifications. You are the one who appointed. But he also helped him in such a way that he absolutely eradicate any type of jealousy.
That's nobility.
Nobility. And that's the reason why we use the word ahavat nefesh. The love that Yehonatan and David, Jonathan and David, is considering, you read the Mishnah in Avot, considering the highest level of a quote-unquote noble true love. That's no other motive, no other interest, no something that you're going to get later or some favor or something like that.
Yeah, that brings tears to my eyes when we read that portion.
Yeah.
At the end. Really.
Very.
It's emotional.
It's very emotional, yes. So that's what the Torah meant in every soul. They said that that's and that's the way, by the way, many commentators, Abarbanel, the great Spanish rabbi, that was forced out of Spain, and other great rabbis that Rivash, other rabbis that wrote commentators, they come in the same way. They just expanded the whole concept of fellow that committed a sin. So they said, and that's a little deep, so hold with me for a second. We are forbidden to hate that person in our heart. We are commanded to rebuke him, right? But what exactly we are commanded? So Abarbanel said, Et hama'asim yesh lisno. The action we can despise, we can hate the action, but not the person. Velo et ha'ish. Which means we can hate a specific action, but we differentiate between the specific action and the full person. And therefore, because we love that person, we just despise specific action, therefore it's in our obligation to say something. It was a great rabbi, Rabbi David Hoffman, may he rest in peace. He go further with that, and he said that it's very parallel to the 10th commandment, which we dedicate many lessons, Lo tachmod, you shall not covet, in the 10th commandment. What is you shall not covet in a practical way? Coveting, it starts in the heart of a person. Your neighbors, your fellow, someone else. The same, if you look carefully at the text, there are 5 different points in these 5 commandments. They speak about, in the sentence 17, the hatred, you should rebuke, right? You should not vengeance, you should not revenge. But it's all begin with the heart. Ve'ahavta. It's the idea of kindness and good heart. It's all come from the love, because a person cannot love someone whom in his heart he despises, right? Yeah. So therefore, the same way as you said, you shall love thy Lord your God, etc., etc. It's not like abstracting love, like love the Almighty. This is love that take act in the actions, right? It's a famous statement about a fellow that came to Hillel and Shammai, and he said, I want to learn the whole Torah while standing on one leg, and Shammai said it's impossible, and Hillel said, okay, I'll give you the whole Torah in one line. He said, Ma de sanit, he said in Aramaic, Ma de Allah sani lechavrach lo ta'avid. Whatever you hate, whatever you don't like, don't do to others what you don't like others to do to you, right? So it speaks not in a sense of quantity, in a sense of quality. So in that sense, a person always think about himself first. So if you avoid yourself from things that you don't do to yourself, that's the fulfillment. Let me share with you the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, 12th century. He wrote in Ilchot Avelut, chapter 14, on a positive way. Let me share with you the word of Rambam. It's short, but it's important. Mitzvat aseh shel divrehem. It's a positive commandment. לבקר חולים, to visit the sick, לנחם אבלים, to comfort the mourners, להוציא את המת, to escort the dead, להכניס כלה, to help a bride to get married, ללוות אורחים, to escort the guests, לעסוק בכל צורכי קבורה, to be part of חברה קדישא, of sacred society. ואלו הם גמילות חסדים שבגופו שאין להם שיעור. This is the amount of a physical action that a person taking his heart that is no limit. You cannot say that it has to be so and so. It's unlimited. אף על פי שכל מצוות אלו מדבריהם, even though this is rabbinic institution, which is the interpretation of the text, part of that is what Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, wrote in Mesilat Yesharim, in the Path of the Just. And I just quote word by word from the translation that here Rabbi Yosef Leibler, I think that's the right translation, used it. And he said, כי כל ענייני העולם בין טוב לרע, at the middle of the page, for everything in this world, whatever good or bad, there is to test men. Poverty on one hand, wealth on the other, okay? Or he said tranquility on the one side and suffering on the other. In other words, it's a constant challenge in a person's life. And as long as a person reaches a point that he has conquered his evil inclination and desire and withdraw himself from those factors that distance him from what is good, and is striven to cleave to God, to the extent he will attain his goal to find joy within him. Because if you delve deeper at the bottom of this matter, into the matter, you will note that the world was created to serve men. However, the world itself stands in balance. If a person drawn this world and distances himself from his creator, he will be corrupted and will corrupt the world with him. Which means, if you go and you violate the 10th commandment, you shall not covet. So the rabbi said you should read the 10th commandment the backward. The minute it's in your heart and you covet something that belongs to someone else, then you go to the violation of the 9 and the 8 and the 7 and 6 and the 5th commandment. You lie in a court, you're stealing, you're doing all kind of violations, which leads eventually to the first one, which is not recognition of that there is a almighty power above everything. Okay? So here he concluded and he said, a person at the bottom was not created for his position in this world, but rather for his position in the world to come. Which means, through his position on this world, he acquires his place in the world to come, this being his ultimate goal. That's well-known teaching in Judaism. That all of the, and many other religions took it from us. You read it in the Sufism, in the Islam teaching, in other religions, that they took a lot of things in that sense. That Judaism holds that since this world is transient, is the brevity of life, and you never know how long you live, so every single moment in your life you should make a self-search and you think, why I'm here, why I'm in this situation, what exactly the challenge, the test, the trial, the tribulation that I need to go through in order to achieve which we call the afterlife, the world to come. In that sense, therefore, you will find many passages, Mesilat Yesharim said, from our sages of blessed memory that speak of this comparison, of this world as a place and time for preparation, and the world to come as a place where one rests and consume what he has already been prepared. Okay? So therefore, he said, if a person reached that point that he understands that everything is for a test and everything is good, Then he reached a point that all his life is for good, and he can pass all those tests, because the minutes carry a jealousy, or carry enviness, or need for grudges, or all this trait is basically failure to overcome those feelings. Page 12, just another paragraph, and then we'll go back to our point. From this we learn that the main purpose of man existence in this world is solely to do mitzvot, to serve the internal, and to overcome tribulations. Right? The pleasures of this world are already meant to aid and assist him, to give him contentment and peace of mind, thereby allow him to turn his heart toward the service that his responsibility. Which means, you see it in the upcoming Shavuot in the book of Ruth, when there's a dialogue between Ruth and Boaz. So when Ruth in chapter 3 tried to approach Boaz, she tell him, okay, you can tell me that you are wealthy and you set off and you have everything in life fine, but you have responsibility. You are here for a reason. You are here to do something, and in that case you are responsible to marry me and to have future. And King David came from that union. But the point is, in a way, she rebuked him nicely when she came to him in private. It's not just you said, okay, I'm taking care of your food, go and collect in the field and take in chapter 2, take. She went to him in private and she said, it's your obligation to you are here for a reason. So he said, again, in a way, we can take even the story of the Ruth as a sign of responsibility, it's a sign of obligation. The big question is, hocheach tochiach, you should reprove, you should rebuke a person, how a person should do it, and which way it's proper. So let me share with you some point. One of them is the idea of kamocha, like yourself. Does that mean what I'm expecting from you to do to me, I want to do to you? You are not obligated to give whatever you have, because you're not expecting someone else to give whatever he or she have to you. That's not what we want. What we said, he mentioned here, several rabbis put it in like a list of 8 things that derive from these 5 mitzvot between man and his fellow. 1, they call it in Hebrew kenut, which means don't pretend, don't fake and pretend feeling when it's not the real feeling. 1. 2, give the proper respect to others. 3, say hello nicely. Okay? 4, you should basically feel for the person, comfort him, etc. 5, you should accept that person. It's called sever panim yafot, with a gracious feeling, with gracious faith. 6, give that person the benefit of doubt. Try to judge him favorably as much as you can. Okay? 7, try to go an extra mile. The rabbi used the word yitrach bishvilo tircha ktana. Try to go an extra mile out of your way. And even, he tried to borrow something from you or lend something for you. You should not hold something there and you pay in that way. That's not all that. It's under the title of love, because that is our obligation to do to our fellow. It's part of our daily trials in this positive commandment. It's all started with the point of the ego of a person and the real ego. What I expecting someone else to do to me, I have to do to others. Which means when they use the word anochi in the Torah, I am your Lord, or Boaz said, if the ploni almoni, if someone else, the closest relative, will not take care of you, I will take. Anochi meaning you should take the real deepest of God in your life. You invite God to be partner in your life. And that's what Rabbi Akiva said in the famous Yerushalmi in Tractate Nedarim. He said, Ze klal gadol Torah. That's the foundation. Foundation. He used the word foundation of the Torah. So, for example, if you are like me, I taught several weeks at the university, Florida Atlantic University, and I don't know if I told you, I came there 5 to 1, and the following speaker, a couple of hours later, was President Obama. And I was in the program, so I tried to find a parking spot, and I have in the faculty parking spot there. But the security people said, "Excuse me, sir, you cannot park here." So I need to go very far to unpleasant neighborhood. The students' parking lot is no spot, and I need to far away park my car. And then it's 5 to 1, and it's about 100 and some people waiting for me in the main auditorium. And I'm running like crazy, running to set up all the equipment and go on stage and start teaching huge multitude of crowds and different faiths and different things. It's overwhelming. And I felt in my heart what she does is wrong, these security people. It's very wrong, but I figure out I have to do what I have to do. So everything was fine, and when it's all over, and it was about 3:30, and I left and I walk out, she ran after me and she said, "Oh, Dr. Weisblum, I didn't know it's you. If I know it's you, I'll let you park there." And you want to hear the worst?
You could have punched her.
She said, "Can you make a prayer for me?" And guess what I said? I said, "Definitely.
Good for you.
Give me your name and everything." I don't know if it's a good example, but it goes to show you that sometimes you have to go an extra mile. Even people who are mean, and you go to a public domain and someone is just, mean for no reason, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea that we are born in the image of God, B'Tselem Elokim, that we are God, we have to have this image of God in our lives. We have to ask all ourselves all the time, "I am you, Lord. What did God want me to do at this very moment?" That's the foundation. And that I want to go further with much deeper the whole concept of tochacha, which is the admonition. The Talmud said in Tractate Erchin 16, is a very big discussion. How should I go about to give someone a word of admonition? Because I can say something to someone, and let's go to the extreme, in public, and insulted him in such a level that his face can turn to red or white or whatever it is. So how we should go about to do it properly? So it's a discussion. The rabbis derive from that the point of departure has to be from your real heart, the heart of heart. Father who love his child, right? Mother who love her son or daughter, when they rebuke their child, they accepted that because the child knows that it's from the heart of the parents. When the Torah use the word, they start with the point, "You shall not hate your brother in your heart." It's because it's your brother. And because it's your brother, it's come from your heart. I don't know if it's a good example.
The intent has to be
pure, from
pure.
your heart.
The intent of, if you admonish or criticize someone, has to be to try to help.
Right. It's not, I'm going to give you some examples. Take it wherever it comes from. I don't know if you recall this Feldengan, the fellow didn't leave a best name, but it's a famous old stamp that said, "He's not heavy, he's my brother." You remember that? It's a very deep concept. It touched my heart when I read it. You see one carry someone, etc. The whole idea of saying something, it starts with the Bereshit. In Genesis, they talk about Jacob. He ran away from his brother. He went to unknown place. And now he see all these shepherds going to the well and opening the well and they're talking among themselves. and Jacob go there and he started giving them a word of admonition. He says, "What's wrong with you guys? It's the middle of the day. You're supposed to work, and you are shepherd. You're sitting here in the middle of the day and talking." And they listened to him, and they opened the well, and they poured the water, and they did everything right. So the rabbis ask a question. You know, if you try to go to a strangers who work on a building, on the constructions, and you come to them in the middle of the day and he says, "Hey guys, why you are lazy, do nothing? What's wrong with you? What they're going to do to you? They're going to let you have it, right?" Yet, you see that they listened to Yaakov, to Jacob, and they did whatever he wants. So the rabbi said it was one word in the Torah. He used the word achai, my brothers. Which means they felt that he is like brother to them, that he is part of them, that he understands them, that he
was not a boss.
Right. So in that sense, when they use the word, you should not hate your brother in your heart, since it's your brother, is not heavy, he's your brother, you shouldn't hate in his heart. So the sages say that during the second temple is a very famous Talmudic in a tractate Yoma text that said that the reason that second temple destroyed because of hatred causeless, that people just hate each other. And they, in the Tractate Shabbat, very interesting, you should read it, it's page 119 in Tractate Shabbat, the Talmud said it was because they don't admonish or not reprove each other. They see things wrong and they just ignore each other, which show a lack of love. Because if you really care, you should say something. When you don't say anything, in some ways, it's like you don't care. I heard one time from one of my teachers who says something that I never forget. He said, he asked us as a student, what's the opposite trait of love? So we as a young student said, hate. He says, no. You know what's the opposite of love, he said?
Indifference.
Indifference. I never forget that. That was so deep. The opposite of love is indifference.
It's not caring.
You don't care.
You don't care.
Hate's very close to love.
Hate and love is the same trait.
Very close.
That you feel close, you hate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they ask you to hate a certain trait, a certain behavior, not the person. But indifference is in the time of the temple, it's very important. The Hasidic literature, it's pleaded with all the idea of we should care for each other and we should rebuke. But the Hasidut said a very important point of the parsha. Ocheach tochiach, it's the Torah used the singular first, which means first you make your own self-search. You search on yourself. You search yourself internally. Think, close your eyes and think if my motivation is clean, truthful, pure, and when you feel that way, then you can go ahead and say something to someone else. Ve'al tisa alav chet, you should not carry a sin upon your fellow. Don't transform sin that you have, guilt or things that you did wrong, upon someone else, which people sometimes done. Also, the Hasidut writings, with Nachman, for example, many Hasidic writings, they said you should say it in a way that not create a tremendous bad feeling either by others or by the person. Velot tisa alav ched, you should not carry a sin upon him, which means you don't want to make him feel worse, and you don't want other people to feel worse. You have to do it. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. You have to say it in such a way that there's it. Now, the big problem is this. The sages said in that tractate Erchin, very interesting statement. It's Erchin, page 16. They said, Omar Rabbi Elazar said, Tameh ani, I'm wondering if there's anyone in our generation who know how to say it tactfully and properly, that people will take it, like the story of Jacob, that people have the ability to take it. So, the great Chazon Ish, which was a great Rabbi Karelitz in the past generation in Israel, was a great posek. He wrote an interpretation for the Rambam in the Hilchot Deot, the law of the trait, how a person should behave to each other. So he said as follows. He said, let me quote, Ovrei avera b'Yisrael hem bechlal re'echa. If you see other fellows that committed a sin, they're considering part of your companionship, right? She'arech amru Chazal b'Sanhedrin, that the sages said in the tractate Sanhedrin 52, אפילו על מי שנתחייב מיתת בית דין, even someone in those days that the בית דין decided that that person deserved capital punishment, ברור לו מיתה יפה, there are different gradation, different level of punishment, so even someone deserved death, there are different level of death. You know, in ancient times it was a stoning or choking, there are different levels. So they said, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, you should love thy neighbor, that even that person deserved death, right? You should do it in a way that you're expecting others to do to you. Which means, he deserved what he deserved, but you do it the way that you're expecting others to do to you. And he goes further to say, that's the Rambam, he said, ומה שאמרו שמצווה לשנוא אדם רשע, what the sages said that it's a mitzvah to hate, in our language, a sinner, they meant to say, זה לאחר שהוכיחו כראוי ולא קיבל תוכחה. This applied to the trait, if you speak to a person, explain to him what is wrong, make it in the most respectful way, and he is not accepting that, and he continue to do evil, then it's a mitzvah to hate that part of a person, not the person, but that part of the person. And therefore, what the proper behavior, you should pray, not that he get punished. That's a common mistake of people, that people said, oh, I wish that that person would get punished. That's not Judaism. What we said in Judaism, what you have to do is you pray that he or she make teshuvah,
right,
and realize what they're doing, and therefore they change his way. So that's the meaning of the Rabbi Eliezer that said, I'm wondering if anyone in our generation has the ability to say, because usually people do things out of, for lack of better knowledge. And since I love my fellow, therefore I treat him the way that I expecting others to treat me, which is explain, educating, brighten the person's understanding. And therefore, you should remember that it's a limitation. You should not hate your fellow in your heart. Which means it's several components. One is the admonition, but it's part of the mitzvah to love a person and to lead him properly. In order for him to be kamocha, that he should be like you in both, in the worldly manners and the heavenly manners. So what we understand so far is that in this commandment between man and his fellow, it's involved a lot of understanding. And it's involved, as you asked earlier, that you should not say, oh, you now ask to borrow something from me, I'm not like you that didn't do it earlier, I'll be different and I'm going to give it to you. That's forbidden. In other words, any form of admonition, if you feel that he's going to listen and accept, etc., you should say it, but you have to make the proper search before you say it. And it's all related to the point, I'm Hashem, which means there is God who created us, we have a short life, and we are in the image of God. And if we look at the big picture, that's part of our obligation to overcome those feelings. And that's a big challenge, and that's the reason why in the entire this Parshiyot, especially this parsha, is repleted with the trait. You should give the wages of a person at proper time. You should not take advantage. You should not stumble a block before a blind person, etc. It's all in relationship between man and his fellow. The mitzvah of love, it's a very important mitzvah, and it's applied to many avenues of life.